Hi there, folks. Lokenhar here, and we're finally about to get through our second question and answer session here. First off, I want to say thank you to everybody who posted questions, sent them to me as messages, all that type of thing. It's really nice to see that you guys enjoy the Let's Plays I put up, along with just the mediums themselves, the Gundam and anime and mecha in general. Anyways, we've got a wide list of questions here, and I've got them all kind of written out into a format in an Excel spreadsheet that way I can easily get to them. Got around 92 or so questions. Some of those were very similar to one another, so I'll be trying to answer those in a mass group instead of having to come across them as we go along. Anyway, so let's kick this pig into high gear, shall we? Our first question, and again, this doesn't appear in order that they were actually posted to the original announcement video, but our first question is actually was asked by about 4 or so people. And if I butcher your name ahead of time, if I do butcher it, I apologize, but I'm going to try my best to sound these out and try look very closely. But anyways, the first question here comes from Omi Nakaui, Murdoch Shepherd, Pegasus Seiya, and Hydra Gundam Furry. That question in some form or another is, Lokenhar, can you please do Zeonic Front? I've had a lot of requests for this game, actually, and I do own Zeonic Front. I managed to pick it up around the same time I picked up Journey to Jaburo from a bargain bin in a Ma and Pa game store. And as far as I know, the disc does work. I only played it for maybe about an hour or so before I just put it back into the case. I was just trying to verify that it worked. I would like to play it. I really would. I would really love it if I could actually play it the old way I used to use and to be able to record fraps, or I could use my new method. And I'll get down to what those methods are in a question down the line here. So yes, I would like to do Zeonic Front. Will I do it for my next Let's Play after Journey to Jaburo, which is the current one? I've considered it. We'll see what happens, see if I can get it to work in a way I like. It's also a very different style of game than what I've done so far for my Let's Play. So we'll just wait and see. But I am looking into it heavily. Let's see here. Our next question down the line here. This also kind of comes into a multiple people asked this question in some form or another. So I'm just going to read off the names here. And the first name is Pat King. Second, Reaper 1981. Chrono Soldier 01. Brettman. RX000. Jordan Kumchaya. And that's the last of those lists. But anyways, different questions for this in different formats. But for the most part, the first question, which was specifically done by Pat King, was, what is your favorite grunt mobile suit? And that's kind of a tough one to kind of choose from. And it depends on what you would call a grunt mobile suit. I'm really a big fan, and this is going to sound weird despite the fact that I bash the series itself. I am a huge fan of the Gym Custom. Now, that's from 0083 Stardust Memories, the one that, oh, fuck, I forgot his name. Anyways, the Gym Custom itself, which goes up in a magnificent show of sparks off into the side. But, by South Burning, of course. That's the name of the pilot. I really do like that. Now, I don't know if you could count that necessarily as a grunt machine. It is kind of a custom high-end mobile suit. It roughly had about the same stats as the original Gundam itself. But if I have to go down to an absolute mass production mobile suit, I really do like the Zaku 2 series. It's a fantastic little design for it. You have a shit ton of variations where you can just get any little thing you like on it. There's also officer versions that have been made. I mean, look at the Johnny Raiden custom. You've got Char's custom, Zaku 2, Shin Matsunaga. I mean, the list goes on. It's a fantastic mobile suit and very different from design to design for it. I mean, there were a crap ton of these things. What is your favorite mobile suit of the vast amount of series and your favorite Gundam suit, which was asked by Chrono Soldier 01. My favorite mobile suit out of all the series and my favorite Gundam suit. Well, that's kind of tough for it. My favorite Gundam suit, if I were to go into, I think it'd have to be somewhere along the lines from maybe the Advanced Flag of Z, which is part of the Universal Century, and it isn't an animated series or anything like that, but it is part of the Gundam series. I am a huge fan of the Woundwort, which, if you haven't seen that mobile suit, take a look for it. It's a very interesting little design. I like that. If you could count it as Gundam, I believe. If not, I definitely would go for the out of the Sentinel series for the Superior Gundam, or especially the EX-S Gundam. I think it's the Extra Superior Gundam or something like that. Extraordinary Superior Gundam. I love that design. It's fantastic. If I had to pick a normal mobile suit, I still have to go with the Zaku 2 series. It's a very well done line. It has a lot going for it. But that's to say a lot of that for Zeon's mobile suits in general are really nice. If I had to pick an AU mobile suit I don't mind the Leos so much from Gundam Wing. They're an okay little line there. I'm not a big fan of the helmet area for the Leo, that whole giant glass eyeball thing. It reminded me a lot of the Death Army from G Gundam itself, and that's good, but I don't know. It just seemed like a huge freaking target, and there are actually a couple instances during the series where they get those portions taken out of the mobile suit, or the hatches get blown up to have like the eye patch cover thing, which was kind of weird, but very interesting to see for it. I just think it's a huge liability. I did like how it has a lot of references towards like the Zaku 2, but it's a lot more streamlined. Favorite Gundam from an AU series? If you can count it as a Gundam, Tall Geese. The original Tall Geese is fantastic. Tall Geese 2, it's okay. I do like the Trey's Kushinaga variation of it. The blue's kind of nice on the white. Did not like Tall Geese 3. It took the heat whip from Epion, which I didn't really like, and made some really weird looking shield and put that all onto Tall Geese. The Buster weapon, the Buster cannon for the Tall Geese 3 was interesting, but it's still not enough for me to get past the old Doppler gun with Beam Saber, and that was it. It was all about high speed and just suiciding into your enemy, essentially. So that would work for that. If it doesn't count as a Gundam, oh, that's a tough one there. From an AU series, I'd have to say that I really did like the Burning Gundam, or the God Gundam, as I originally knew it as. I did like that variation quite a bit. Now, a lot of people will and have argued with me that that doesn't really count as an actual Gundam, because G Gundam is a very super robot genre-heavy Gundam series. It's a very fun series. It was portrayed more for the younger generations of people of Gundam fans that were coming out necessarily than the real grim dark series that was the UC series at the time, because I believe it just followed up on Zeta, which was wow. I wouldn't want to be showing that to little kids. One, they probably wouldn't get half the shit that was going on, or they'd just be asking simple questions like, why would they do this or that? But I did like the Burning Gundam quite a bit, and that would probably be my choices for favorite AU suit. There are a lot of variation designs that come from the offshoot manga, especially from Gundam Wing, which has a lot of them. I mean, you've got The Last Outpost, Frozen Teardrop, which has new things out for it, Operation Meteor, stuff like that. So you get some other designs there, but I really haven't had as much of a chance to get to know them quite a bit, to really have some form or aspect of them appeal to me in a general manner. Aquarius Gundam's not too bad, or if I'm pronouncing it right, I can't even remember what it looks like now. But let's see here. Hydra Gundam, that's another one. I think that's from The Last Outpost. Or is it G Unit it's from? I can't remember now. Something like that, yeah. Some of those are very interesting, and they do fit with the theme for the AU, or the After Colony series specifically. Let's see here. I kind of answered that question already from Brett Man. What was my favorite Gundam ever? That would definitely be the EX-S Superior Gundam, or the Woundwort, if we can count that one. Let's see here. RX000 asks, if I would pilot any mech, which would it be? If it's any mech, that to me makes it seem like there's going to be no limitations on this, so it doesn't necessarily have to be from Gundam. And that would be interesting. If it's a mech, I assume I have to be able to get inside of it and pilot it, and it can't be something like a powered armor or something like that. So, because it would be kind of cool to have a Guyver suit of my own, outside of those negative effects that may happen, it going berserk and things along those lines. But if I had to pick one to actually pilot, I wouldn't mind piloting a gear, actually, from the Xenogear series. I really enjoyed that RPG series, even though it kind of fell apart towards the end of the original game, and we'll not even get started about Xeno Saga and the huge fuck up I felt that was. Anyways, I would like to pilot a gear. What gear I would like to pilot? Oh, Wiltall would be cool. ID Wiltall would be fantastic. Calamity, there's an interesting one there. There's a bunch of different ones I can think of, but now I can't remember any of their names. If I had to pick a Gundam to pilot for it, if I've just stuck with it, or anything from the Gundam series, I would probably want to be in like a grunt-style mobile suit. A lot of the psychological trauma that comes along with being a Gundam pilot of like a mainline Gundam is a little bit too much for me to really say, yeah, I'll do that. I'll jump in there. I wouldn't mind being like a Gym Command, Gym Custom, a Zaku 2, some sort. So that wouldn't be too bad to pilot. Let's see here. Jordan Kumchea asks me what is my favorite Gundam series. And that's a tough one there. If it counts as a series, even though it's technically an OVA, I still really do like the 0083 series a lot. Now, my opinions on these series do change as I look at them in different ways, as I grow older and I go back to watch them. So I changed it up here and there. Second front winner would be the 8th MS team, the 8th Mobile Suit team. I like the grunt perspective and that fantastic Goof battle between the EZ8 and the Goof Custom Norris and Amada going at it. That was very, very interesting to watch. He also asks me, what is my favorite Gundam? Already answered that. What is your favorite mobile suit that's not a Gundam? Zaku 2. We'll go with the Zaku 2 there, Jordan. All right, so that is, for the most part, I think... Oh, well, we've got one more shared question here, and that is asked between RX000 and Mr. Super Jam 789. They, RX000 asked me, would I watch Pacific Rim? And Mr. Super Jam 789 asked me am I looking forward to Pacific Rim, which came out the 12th of July. It is now the 24th of July. I did go and see it. I didn't see it opening night. I saw it, I think, 2 or 3 days later, something like that, at a real late showing. But yeah, I loved it. I would go see it. Matter of fact, I may go see it again with a friend of mine who is kind of into giant robots and stuff like that, but he felt like it might turn out to be like a Bayformers. I really haven't talked about Pacific Rim a whole lot. I did enjoy it. I liked how they did enough with the human characters that it was okay, but they didn't overdo it like Bayformers did, where it was mostly about the humans for 80% of the film time, and just the robots and the battles were just a giant clusterfuck. I felt like the battle scenes in the movie were well done. I enjoyed the comedy for it. It was all in all pretty good. The characters, there's a couple of well-known actors in there that come from different series, like Always Sunny in Philadelphia, a couple other shows on that, Hellboy actors kind of thing. It was very interesting. I did enjoy it. A lot of people wanted to point out that there was a huge montage or just offering up to old mech anime and games and stuff like that in the movie, and you see this or that thread online that's saying, oh yeah, this part of the movie was, you know, paying homage to Evangelion or Robot Jocks or whatnot. I could see the similarities for it, and to be able to say that they had no idea that they were making these comparisons so close is probably a little foolhardy. A lot of the people who probably thought this up watched a lot of these shows as they were growing up, so of course it's going to have influences on them. But if you're a mecha fan in general, even if you're not a big fan of super robots, this had enough of kind of a real robot feel to it that it didn't put me off from watching it. Sometimes you get super robot series that are absolutely, you know, they have no idea what they're talking about. It's just, let's just put this on to paper and then we'll go from there. They'll eat it all up. Not my cup of tea for that, but I wasn't disenfranchised with this movie for that reason. So go see it. It's got real good production values. A couple of parts may have fallen apart here or there, and I'm not going to spoil that type of thing. I did enjoy the main characters, and I just got to say, Pentecost is a pretty badass guy. I liked him a lot. And if you don't know who that is, you'll find out pretty quick. That's not really a spoiler. At least I hope not. No, it shouldn't be. Yeah, fuck it. Whatever. Don't care. Moving on. Now we get to the actual individual questions here. The first question is by Jim Fury. Jim Fury asks me, are you more inclined to play Super Robot Wars or Dynasty Warriors Gundam? You know what? I play them for different moods I'm in, or for different mindsets. For Dynasty Warriors Gundam, I usually, back when I used to play Dynasty Warriors, I played Dynasty Warriors since Dynasty Warriors 2, fell in love with the series. I've played almost every single entry, including all of the Mobile Suit Gundam ones. I do like it, but it's for, I just want to feel all powerful and fuck shit up with a Gundam. That's my primary goal when I'm playing that, and then while I'm listening to heavy metal music or some kind of really high octane type of music in the background, which back in the old days we'd have to take a CD player or a boombox and put that crap on it and then listen to it over the audio. But nowadays we can actually listen to the music directly in the game, which is nice. Super Robot Wars, I play for more of a strategy mech game series. There aren't very many within that category, or at least anymore. There used to be quite a few of them. In terms of like an RTS style series or an RPG series for it. One of the biggest, I think, was the Front Mission series, which I did play quite a bit of as a kid. I'm trying to remember which one I played first. I don't know if it was Front Mission 2 or not. The new Front Mission, or at least the new face of Front Mission, is a continuing disgrace to the entire series. I did buy it. I bought it for a penny exactly on Amazon, and I did play it. It was, wow. It felt kind of like Mech Assault when you went from Mech Warrior to Mech Assault. Kind of a bit of a letdown, but it was its own little thing, so I can let it go for that. It tried to copy a lot of things from like Armored Core and stuff like that, and it didn't really do them too well. Anyways, but I play Super Robot Wars to kind of get more in-depth to a story and get something out of that, whereas Dynasty Warriors Gundam, I'm skipping through cutscenes. I don't give two shits about the story. Just let me go and destroy thousands of Zakus and fight a Psycho Gundam here or there, or, you know, that type of thing. So that's the difference for me between the Super Robot Wars series and Dynasty Warriors Gundam if I want to play them. The next question actually down the line is from Jim Fury again, and he asked me, what beer do you drink? And don't say whatever's on sale. Well, I'm a fiscal man. I do try to save money here and there, and I have drank some very nasty beer before because it was cheap. I tend to drink a lot of Guinness, actually. And a lot of people look at me like, oh, man, you have no taste for beer or that. I don't care. It's something I don't mind drinking in excess on a couple of occasions. More than one probably I have on recording. But I enjoy Guinness. I don't mind some different types of micro brews. Dogfish Head's not bad. I'm trying to think of any others, and I'm drawing a complete blank here. Maybe it's alcohol amnesia here. I can't think of anything off the top of my head. I don't mind Newcastle, but I prefer to drink that off of like a tap rather than a bottle. Some beers I find are better bottled or canned. Not very many, but some are bottled better than I feel like they're taps. Guinness I do prefer over the tap. The bottle's better than the can, but not by a whole lot. And the tap just blows them both away for it. I also drink a lot of liquor itself. Rum's pretty good one mixed with whatever. Whiskey's fantastic. Some Jameson. Cuddy Sark's pretty good. That type of thing. Now, if you are below the drinking age, I'm not encouraging you to drink at whatsoever. So we'll just head that one off at the pass. I've actually had a couple of private messages sent to me in concern of that. No, this is something I enjoy doing, and I enjoy playing games while I am intoxicated or a little tipsy. So that's my own little thing. Don't take it as your own. And as I heard before, those are my thoughts and not yours. Let's see here. Moving on down the line here. Next question is by Sinoke79. If you can live in any time period from any of the Gundam timelines, which would you live in and why? Well, that comes down to let's start off with the bat. AU versus UC. I don't think I'd want to live in a UC timeline because, I mean, let's look at this. Mobile Suit Gundam, over half the Earth's population pretty well bites the big bazooka right off the bat. So chances are I'm dead, or I'm not living in too good of conditions unless I'm an Earth elite, in which case I'm an asshole. Or I live in the elite sphere in the space colonies, and I'm a dick. So it's rather, am I an asshole on Earth or am I a dick in space? And I'm not sure if I could listen to Garen for very long and not try and commit Harry Carey or something along those lines. Dozel's a different story, but oh well. I probably would try for maybe one of the AU series. It'd be interesting to live actually in the Turn A series, because it's a very rustic style. Everything's kind of reverted back to a more steampunk era. And that would be interesting to live in, although it would suck for a couple of reasons. And this is, if you haven't seen the series, this is kind of a little bit of a giveaway, is that there's a technology gap between two of the nations. And depending on what nation I end up being living in or that type of thing, it might be very bad for me. So, but I think that because it's such a unique little setting, I wouldn't mind living too much in that. Now, it'd be nice to have the higher technology from some of the other series, like Wing. Wing would be interesting. I mean, spaceflight is a common occurrence. The same thing with the UC era, more so late UC, where things have started to kind of get back into order. Which brings up a point. If I had to live in a UC series, it'd probably be somewhere around right after Char's counterattack, so I can avoid that whole asteroid debacle. And possibly around Gundam Unicorn, maybe Hathaway's Flash would be interesting. Something out towards the Neo Zeon revival on Mars, that kind of thing. It'd be interesting to live in that timeline. Or, to that fact, if it's Gundam Wing, maybe around the Frozen Teardrop era of that series for it. All right, moving on. Let's see here. Next is a question by Pat King, in which he asks, who is your favorite mobile suit pilot in the UC or AU? Okay, I'll give an example for both of them. My favorite UC pilot is probably going to have to be Amuro Ray. I like the fact that he has guerrilla-style tactics. He's a fantastic pilot, and he starts off as a whiny little bitch. He really does. And that's kind of like the right of trial for most Gundam pilots, is that you got to start off as a little whiny kid in some form or another, or you at least have a tantrum down the line. Amuro, I felt, kind of grew up and around all that type of stuff, and he was able to become a well-rounded person, maybe, despite the mental damage he probably has suffered at the hands of the whole Lala Shar and him, love triangle and all that type of thing, and that damn bitch Quest killing off his love affairs and stuff like that. But yeah, Amuro Ray, I think, is my favorite mobile suit pilot from the UC. From AU, that's a tough one. Maybe, I'm trying to remember a couple of the pilot names here that I find interesting. One of them from G Gundam, and I can only remember part of his name, which is Chibity, the North American Gundam pilot. I just liked how eccentric he was. It was kind of cool. That whole series was just basically a parody of that, going from there forward. It kind of got a little more serious towards the end, but not by much. So from G Gundam and that Super Robot area, I think Chibity Crockett. Yeah, I think that was his name, Chibity Crockett. And I'm doing horrible with names tonight. In terms of actual real robot, probably I like Trey's. I like Trey's piloting style. You don't see him pilot a lot during the series, but the times you do, he was more of a leader, more of a figurehead, and I kind of liked that because you didn't really see a whole lot of that through the UC series, where it's every main figurehead was some badass pilot who would try their best to fuck with the main character or protagonist and stuff like that, and it just came down to a final showdown between them. Whereas Trey's was a main character, I felt, or at least a very heavy supporting character, and a mobile suit pilot. But he ducked out rather early, and he did it of his own accord, which is kind of interesting to me. Next question down the line also comes from Pat King, which is, do you prefer Zeon or the Federation? You know what? Despite them being absolute assholes during the later portions of the UC era, I do like the Federation a little bit more than the Zeon side. They do have their moments, though, and that's true with the Zeon. There are moments where they turn into, all right people, and then there are other times they're homicidal and genocidal maniacs. The same can be said with the Federation, but so each his own. It's really just, they're both each a different side of the same coin, but I'd probably pick Federation if I had to, just because I grew up around a lot of their mobile suits, just using them, seeing them on TV type of thing. Let's see here. Next question Comes from Primus even versus Unicron 1, and he asks me, do I use Xbox Live? Not anymore. I actually used to. I think I got Xbox Live around the exact time it debuted with the original Xbox. Back in those days, there were very few games to actually play on it. Mech Assault was one of them, Halo 2, that type of thing. I remember playing a lot of those games. Do I play them anymore, or do I use Xbox Live anymore? No. It just got to be too much of an expense during college and things like that, and I didn't feel like I was getting my use out of it. It's kind of like why I don't play a lot of MMOs. I just can't justify the expense of having my user account just sit there not being made use of for a good portion of a week or a month or whatever time for it. I used to play quite a few MMOs and online games for that matter. I used to play a heck of a lot of Halo 3 when it came out. World of Warcraft, yeah, even I played World of Warcraft, but I got really tired of that one after a while. So after Vanilla and Burning Crusade, I just kind of gave up on that. Played a lot of EVE Online. I still go back to that every now and then, but it's getting a little away from me now, and my time is very little to begin with. As you see with how infrequent my video updates have been for the longest time. So yeah, I don't plan on going back to Xbox Live anytime soon. If I can stick exactly with PC, I would be happy. I have no plans to really get the Xbox One. Even though they've gone back on a lot of their really badly made decisions over the past couple of months, I still am a little wary of getting any Microsoft product on launch, just because they have an uncanny ability to blow up in some spectacular motion in order to make you look bad, and I don't feel like having to deal with Microsoft for that matter. Might get maybe the PS4, but again, I don't think I'll get either one on launch and wait to see what they come out with. All right, moving on. Next question comes from, Primus versus Unicron 1 again. I should probably mix these up some order. Have you played Transformers War for Cybertron and Transformers Fall of Cybertron? Yes. I have played both. I actually own both. I've beaten both. Enjoyed both games. I am a big Transformers nerd. Watched the series growing up when it was brought over to Western audiences. Went to see... no, I didn't see the movie in theaters, unfortunately. I did, however, burn an entire tape cassette up, a VHS tape, at my local video club, which tells you how long ago it is when there's actually a video store. It wouldn't work after I watched. I probably watched that movie over 100 times as a kid, easy. I can easily sit back and just kind of go along with every line and every song and the whole thing. So I played these games when they first came out. I think it was the War for Cybertron that came out first. Played the hell out of that one. I loved it. It was kind of it got back to like what the comics were doing. And at the time, there was a bit of a Transformers resurgence, what with the Bayformers films coming out. And I got a lot of disappointment out of those films. I was hoping for a hell of a lot more. But these War for Cybertron and Fall of Cybertron gave me a little bit of that back. It felt more like Transformers back then, from what I remember growing up with. So yeah, I have both of them. I've played and beaten both of them, and I actually have considered doing a Let's Play for each of those games. They're very straightforward in terms of gameplay. They're not that complex, but they are just cool from a Transformers fan's perspective, I believe. But we'll see what I can get to down the line for it. Anyways, moving on. Pegasus Seiya asked the next question, which he says, I recently watched your previous question and answer and just wanted to say if you want a fun Gundam games for the PlayStation, you should try Gundam Battle Assault and Gundam Battle Assault 2. Nothing serious, just fun games. Plus, they were released here in the US, so they're in English. I actually own these games. I initially had Gundam Battle Assault 2, which I got for my birthday years and years and years ago. When it first came out, I happened to spy it in a Kmart. And I put it on my birthday wish list, and that's what I got. Played the hell out of that game. I'm not a big fighting game type of guy, but it had Gundam on the front. It had a boatload of mobile suits you could actually use in the game itself. And I beat it. I unlocked every single mobile suit, if I can remember, from Battle Assault 2. I didn't get to play Battle Assault 1 until much later down the line when I found it at a flea market. I like it. It's pretty good, but I just grew up with Battle Assault 2, and it's fantastic. Battle Assault 3, which I think came out for the PlayStation 2, and features Gundam Seed mobile suits. When they first came out with that series, it was kind of released to promote it in that way. I played it once. It was set up at a demo kiosk in some weird store, and I happened to play it, and I don't really remember much about it. I do not own that one, actually. I wouldn't mind picking it up just to have it in my collection, but they're getting harder and harder to find nowadays, and I have to look through some weird channels to actually find these games in playable condition. Let's see. Next question comes from Star Wars Fan 117. Actually, a couple of his coming up here. And he asked me for the first question, what is my favorite Gundam series opening? Well, I have a bit of a problem with this, and is that I can never remember the name of the damn opening. If you were to play that opening, I can tell you exactly where it was from. But if you ask me, hey, what is the name of that opening? I don't know. So I guess I'll try my best to put this to series. And this is going to sound weird. I actually did like some of the opening sequence songs and openings in general for Gundam Seed Destiny. I did actually like some of those, and a lot of people are going to look at me like I'm kind of weird, but I liked how they did the animation with it, along with the high volume electricity type music, where it was just going with it. I liked that. It was not bad. Too bad the series didn't follow that entirety, but it was interesting for it. I didn't mind the first opening for Gundam Zeta, where especially after they reveal the Zeta Gundam in it, because before the Zeta Gundam actually shows up in the series itself, it's kind of like blurred out. But I really did like the opening, especially the original version of it, where everything's kind of like shadowy and stuff like that. You can't see all the enemies. I did really like that quite a bit. And they tried to do a similar thing to that for Gundam Seed Destiny, where they shadow Destroy Gundam, and you can't see it, and you can't see the Destiny Gundam and stuff like that. But I felt that they were trying really to make those corresponding points between Zeta and Destiny, where Destiny was basically almost a kind of a rehash of what Zeta was supposed to be, but nowhere near as good. So I suppose Zeta's first opening, to answer your question, is my favorite Gundam series opening. I have no idea what the name of that song or the artist is. That's just what I remember for it. Let's move on to your next question here, Star Wars fan. If you had to own a single mobile suit to use in your day-to-day life, which would it be? I can't really think of a mobile suit, a single one, that would be beneficial to my day-to-day life. The building I work in is actually kind of tiny, so I think any normal mobile suit would be, well, a giant eyesore along with a traffic congestion issue. Maybe a Mobile Suit Junior. If I had to pick for something from everyday life, a Mobile Suit Junior, or I don't know. That's a tough one. Maybe the Zeta Gundam. I could see using the Zeta Gundam because while it is a full-grown mobile suit, and a pretty tall one at that, the fact that it can actually turn into a Wave Rider aircraft form, I could see getting some use out of that. That, and I can fly over rush hour traffic and while flipping off all the people who drive like assholes and stuff like that, and just get to work a lot quicker. Parking the damn thing might be a bit of an issue, but we'll get there eventually. All right, so next down the line, Star Wars Fan 117 asks me, do you prefer to make post commentary or live commentary? I prefer the live commentary. The only reason why I started doing the post commentary, and I really only started doing it for my Encounters in Space Let's Play, was because I couldn't get the audio to record the game itself and my voice without making one of them go out of sync. And it was an infuriating problem. I still can't figure out quite how it's fucking up, but it does it. And it may sound completely normal for 20, 30 minutes out of the video, but those last couple of minutes, it'll go horribly out of sync. And I just couldn't let that type of thing go onto YouTube, or if I can catch it. Now, I know there are some examples of this going out of sync here or there, and I apologize for that, but I can't catch everything. So I do definitely prefer to do the live commentary. And when I did the recordings for Federation vs. Zeon, Mega Man Legends, Mega Man X and X2, along with Gundam vs. Zeta Gundam, all of those were live recordings that had been using a program called Fraps, which had recorded all audio input and output from my computer itself. So that was really easy. It was one package. I didn't have to worry about sync issues so long as I managed to remember to hit the fucking record button, which happened a couple of times. So definitely live commentary. Post commentary comes in handy when I'm talking about something that I didn't shoot video footage wise. I've seen some Gumpla footage that I've made some commentaries on before for different things here or there over the years, and it's much easier to do the post over that because I'm not there. All right, moving down the list here, we've got the next question by Star Wars fan, which is really blurry for some reason. What made you want to start making Gundam Let's Plays? I had started with my first Let's Play, which was Let's Play Mega Man Legends, which has been done to kind of the death on YouTube. And I just started recollecting all of the old Gundam games I had for the PlayStation 2. I kept a couple of them. I kept Federation vs. Zeon. I kept my Battle Assault series, but I hadn't kept a lot of them. And I didn't own some of them to begin with. So I wanted to watch the Let's Plays for them, if there were any, or just some footage. And I tried looking for Encounters in Space. There was like 3 videos for Encounters in Space, and it looked like somebody had tried to take like an old camcorder and stuck it in front of their TV on like a tripod and recorded directly off the TV. You got a bunch of background noise. The quality was bad. Kudos for them to try and do it. I mean, if that's the only technology or the only way you have to record it, that's all you can do. But they only had like 3 videos, and they were like 5 minutes each. And I'm like, you know what? I was just about halfway through my Mega Man Legends Let's Play, and I'm like, I wonder if I can actually get this to work. If I could record these PlayStation 2 Gundam games. I would love to do that. I mean, these are games that I played to death as a kid, so why not now? Because that's kind of one of the rules I try and do with a game I want to Let's Play, is that I want to be able to play it and have fun, not just to play it just to have a Let's Play of it. If I'm not having any fun doing something in a game, it's boring, and there's no amount of alcohol that can stave that off. I would give it up halfway through and probably not even post the footage. So that's probably the reason behind me making the Gundam Let's Plays, just because I really liked the games, and nobody had done them, and I was shocked that nobody had done them. All right, moving on down to the next question by Star Wars fan is, what do you think about the series Neon Genesis Evangelion? I never really saw the entire thing in its entirety until after I had seen a lot of spoilers online. It blends Super Robot with some real robot genres in a very odd way. A lot of I don't know how to even look at this. There have been whole papers. Matter of fact, I think somebody's PhD hinged on this series about dissecting the entire thing. It's an interesting series. I did enjoy watching the entire original. When I first saw the movies, the Rebirth and End of Evangelion, they left me, like a lot of people, sitting at the end credits as they were rolling going, what the fuck just happened? Did anyone catch that? Because I had to watch it a couple of times to just be able to start to get some of this stuff. Maybe I was slow. But it's not a bad series. I am currently watching the rebuild. I do actually own 1.11 and 2.22, and 3.33 is coming out here very soon, I think in August, actually. And I do plan on getting that. I haven't seen any of the bootlegs that have come out. I've been trying to watch them and support them as they come out on English release or Western release in whatever form we get. And I encourage other people to do the same, just so we can try and get some more attention here in the West, which is slowly starting to pick up. Final question by Star Wars fan here in this one string of them here is, why do you think the Gem gets such a bad portrayal in almost anything they're in? That's a good question. For the most part, in the games that I've played, they're kind of shit. Compared to every other mobile suit, they are just shit. Unless you count the Super Saiyan Gem 2 that I piloted and it lost an arm, the head was gone, and it kept on punching. It was basically the Black Knight from Monty Python, but in Gem form, from Gundam vs. Zeta Gundam. I guess the best way to look at it is that they needed something to make the Zeon forces seem powerful or evil, because even though this is a show that took on a lot of real life themes, a lot of political themes at that, it was still a show primarily aimed at kids to begin with. So you needed something that could encompass an evil force that, despite the best efforts of the normal populace who were piloting these the mass-produced gem and its many variants, it was up to Amuro and his fearsome super Gundam to go through and blast all the evil villains away, that type of thing. So that's why I believe the gem just gets shown being like, kindling and just goes up in flames every time you look around, which happens quite a bit. Because considering some of these mobile suits are so overpowered that they're going up against, they didn't really have a whole lot of chance. But in terms of stats, the Zaku 2 and the original RGM-79 aren't that different. There's not a big gap between the two of them to make one that much better than the other. I think the Gem actually has a little bit over the Zaku 2 in terms of just overall abilities. But it all comes down to the pilot. I mean, we've seen pilots that'll make a ball just dance circles around even a prototype mobile suit. So that's probably why the Gem gets such a bad portrayal, just because it was a foil in order to make the enemy look even more menacing. Next question down the line, and there are quite a bit of these. I'm really happy with how many people posted questions and sent me questions. Comes from Alexter. I think that's how that's pronounced. What is best pilot in a series period? And he gives me a list here to choose from. Amuro Ray, Anavel Gato, Roy Falker, Max Janus, Domon Kashu, Guy Daigoji, or none of the above. I don't know. You know what? I gotta kind of go with, even though I really do like Amuro Ray, Roy Falker. Roy Falker is my favorite out of that list. I really enjoyed the Macross series. I originally saw it as Robotech, and I say that, and I kind of cover myself with my flame shield here. A lot of people don't like Robotech because they don't like Harmony Gold and the big giant dicks they're being, which is true. Harmony Gold is being a bunch of dicks about the whole thing. I liked Robotech for what it tried to do. It tried to take a bunch of series that had really no reason being even related to each other outside of it being anime and mecha anime at that, and putting them together with a unique story. But I always liked Roy's character in both Macross and Robotech. I really enjoyed how he was kind of portrayed as more of an older brother that you could really kind of look up to in the series. I mean, with Rick Hunter, or however you want to call him, whichever name you choose, he always felt like that big brother, and he even calls him Big Brother. And it was a very sad moment when, and this is a spoiler alert, Roy gets killed in the series in whatever carnation happens. Probably the worst by far that made me just kind of cringe a bit was his death in Do You Remember Love. That looked like it hurt. In the original series, he kind of just dies on the bed out of blood loss type of thing. But in Do You Remember Love, he just gets absolutely crushed, and he's still trying to fight, even though the Battleoid is just absolutely demolished, and I liked him. Anavel Gato, I'm sorry, I've just seen the meme too many times of my deals and that gif that shows him like that. I did like Maximilian. I haven't really seen Macross 7 in a long time to see his older character. He was kind of an interesting little genius in the original series that kind of takes some of the spotlight away from the main characters. But it was nice to see somebody in a series, especially a mech series, who wasn't the main character, but he was better than the main character. That was kind of refreshing in a time when you saw every main character was the best of their respective series. Domon, he's all right. Guy, can't really say a whole much about him. And then, that's about that for that list there. It's definitely going to be Roy, though. I'll pick Roy. Next question comes from Overdrive Asen, which he asks, I have a question. Is Amuro Ray dead, or is he still alive after? I believe after is what you mean from Char's counterattack. That's up to speculation. I've seen arguments back and forth of whether or not they're alive or dead. And, well, if we wait to see what they retcon into the OVA version of Unicorn, we actually might see something interesting about that. a lot of people look at it, he's dead. And even Tomino himself has kind of put it to the point where, yeah, that's it. That's the end of their story. They're done. Whether that means they're dead or they're just out of the spotlight, that's up to you. So far, they are, I believe they're actually listed officially as missing in action, along with a lot of other pilots. But yeah, they're probably dead. That's what I think, is that they actually did die. If not, and there are actually some very interesting little dojins about where they went off to, and I wouldn't recommend looking for those unless that's some of the, something you're into. They kind of speculate on what happened to Amuro and Char there. But yeah, for the most part, I believe he's actually, he's probably not ever going to show up again in any form. Although if you technically count the AI version of Amuro that does show up later in the way far UC era, then I guess that does kind of count as him being alive in a fashion. Let's see here. The next question is from G Shadow 007, and he asks me, have you seen Neon Genesis Evangelion in its entirety? Yes. As I mentioned above, I've seen the whole series. I've kind of seen it in a weird order, but I have seen the original series completely. I've watched it from start to ending, and I've seen the movies for it. I've read a little bit of the manga, but not a whole lot of it. Next question comes from The Reaper 1981. And he asked me on how many beers do I drink on an average day? That's a tough number, and sometimes it's difficult to remember. I'd say on an average day, I'll have maybe 2 to 3 beers a day. I've had to cut down quite a bit on my alcohol consumption just because I can't afford it. So when I do get a chance over the weekend, I do go through a lot more alcohol than I would during the week, just because I have to be up early. I have to be functional for the most part. So on an average day, 2 to 3 beers. Weekend, I'd say that number goes anywhere from 4 to 8. And on some really bad decisions, more than that. Next question also comes from Reaper 1981. And he asks me, how many Gundam games do I actually own? Oh gosh, that's something I have to think about here for a second. Let's see, I own Battle Assault 2. I currently own Zeonic Front, Journey to Jaburo, Encounters in Space, Federation vs. Zeon, Gundam vs. Zeta Gundam. Trying to think of anything else I currently have. There are a couple of items I am in the process of trying to procure, and I won't really give those away because I might use them for potential reveals for Let's Plays down the line. But so that's 7 games right there. Other than that, not a whole lot in terms of Gundam games. A lot of the games that we had received were for the PlayStation 2 era. I did own Neverending Tomorrow for a brief time, and I mentioned it once long ago. I bought it from a GameStop. I found it in one of those bargain bins with the case and instructions, and the disc looked perfectly fine. However, when I got it back and actually tried to play it, the damn thing wouldn't work at all. So I ended up having to take it back. But from what I've heard, it is a very, very bad game. Not just because it has Seed as its main setting, but just in general, the game was piss poor compared to Federation vs. Zeon and the other games like that. But I haven't really confirmed it for myself. So we may see that if I can find a damn copy that works. So yeah, we'll go with 7 Gundam games at the moment. Most of them PlayStation 2 games. I am currently looking to get more, though. Reaper's final question here is, would you go back through all your Gundam games and show off all the extra stuff? Yeah, that's one little thing that I've kind of been a little embarrassed about, is that if you'll notice, a lot of times I'll kind of leave off extra little bits here. For the most part, the one game I've shown in its entirety, outside of just some small little unlockable gallery images, was Gundam vs. Zeta Gundam. I played that thing until I still haven't picked that game back up. Matter of fact, it's been on my shelf and it's collecting dust, and it will sit there for a while. I have no desire to play that game because it would just that was too long of a Let's Play. I was hoping to end it somewhere around 50, 60 episodes, double that. As for some games I do need to go back to and revisit, I like to do Federation vs. Zeon. When I left off of that, I was actually hoping to unlock an extra mode that should be unlockable once you complete both the Federation and the Zeon side campaign mode. I had actually fucked up my save file, and that's why that didn't unlock, and I figured this out later on down the line, well into the Gundam vs. Zeta Gundam Let's Play. I mean to go back to that one and show that off, and along with some of the arcade mode, which I didn't really do. And I can always, the great thing about owning these games is that I can always go back and do them at my leisure for whatever reason I seem to dub being fit. Now, for Encounters in Space, there are a few little extras I wanted to show off, and I mentioned that in my last video. The things I want to show off are primarily, I want to show off a multiplayer game. The problem is it's arranging a time when I can have somebody else actually be, either I can bring the system to them or they can come to me and we can actually record a versus match. I had one good opportunity and it just fell apart, and I really haven't looked into getting setting up another type of instance for that. But it is something I have in the back of my mind. The other things for Encounters in Space I want to show off is the what I think is the hardest enemy encounter in the game, bar none. Especially for what mobile suit you have to actually do it with. And no, it's not the core fighter versus an endless wave of mobile suits, because that would actually be, I think it'll be a little bit easier in some regards. I also want to show off just a little bit about the television mode for white base mode, because when you initially play white base mode, which is the first mode I covered in Encounters in Space, you actually play it as TV mode. Or not TV mode, movie mode, in which they have some slight changes in who appears here, what happens, what units may appear there and there. For example, there are two gun cannons instead of a gun cannon and a gun tank in the movie mode, whereas you actually see the gun tank appear in the TV mode. Also, the core booster shows up in movie mode. The core, the G armor shows up in the TV mode for it, which would be interesting to show those off just a little bit. I don't feel like playing through the entire white base mode campaign again, because you don't see a whole lot of difference in order to make up for that. So I may just show those off in just a chopped up video I show here or there. But yeah, I'd like to go back to them, and I probably will eventually. I have no real ETA on when that'll happen, but I am aware that I have left off some stuff, so I have to fix those up. Next question comes from Tony Hackney. Hackney asks, have you ever played an Armored Core game? I have played almost every single Armored Core game that has ever been released. I own Armored Core 1. I own Armored Core 2, Armored Core 2 Another Age, Armored Core 3. I own Nexus, The Last Raven, Silent Line, Armored Core 4, Armored Core 4 Answer, which is my favorite next gen. I don't own Armored Core 5. I rented it and I played it for an hour. I couldn't get into it. It was just, it felt like they tried to do the same thing they did with Front Mission, and it wasn't entertaining as an Armored Core game. So yes, I have played quite a few Armored Core games. I've played, let's see, I've played Phantasma, Master of the Arena, whatever it's called, one of those. I've played a lot of the PlayStation 1 games, all of the PlayStation 2 games, including Ninebreaker. But yeah, next question comes from Smack Mickey. This is kind of a long one here. Have you thought about introducing more people other than myself into my Let's Play? And to add to that, have I thought about introducing more games to my Let's Play list? Lastly, would you ride a unicorn into the sunset if it meant you'd have to make sweet love to a cold watermelon? Oh, dear God, no. No. Last part of that question, no, I would not ride a unicorn, because for some reason, whenever I think of a unicorn as in the mythical creature, I always think of the robot chicken pedophile unicorn. No, I'm sorry. I don't care if a watermelon's warm. That's a deal breaker right there. But to address the first couple portions of your question, have I thought about introducing more people into my Let's Play? Yeah, no, I have. If I was going to go more along the lines into a post-commentary only focus, I would probably try and bring some people into, especially for the Gundam Let's Plays or whatever I get into, and have them commentate over it. I've actually looked into ways to do this with Twitch TV, with Skype, with share my screen, that type of thing. But it does come down to that a lot of the people I would bring into this, they have schedules that are conflicting with mine, or they just don't have time for it, and I can't blame them. I remember the good old days back in college when I could actually devote an entire week to doing, well, whatever the hell I wanted, and so could my friends, but that's sadly the fact for that. I do consider it an option, and I don't rule it out for future Let's Plays, that type of thing, especially if a game I do has a focus on multiplayer that you can actually use. Like, for example, in Encounters in Space with the Versus, I would like to go ahead and record both of our commentary as we actually play the game, and then be able to put that on there as kind of like a dual audio. which would be really cool. In terms of introducing more games to my Let's Play list, I'm assuming that you mean something along the lines of, am I considering doing something other than Gundam games? Yeah, no, definitely. I would like to do different games other than Gundam. Do I have a library of them? Huge backlog, actually. I go to places and I go, ooh, that looks like an interesting game. I'll just pick that up for a couple of bucks. And my shelf and collection are growing. I have about a full bookshelf now that's full of just nothing but PlayStation 2 games that I could play. It's just getting the time to do some of these the right way, or at least somewhat of a half-assed way. So yeah, I'd like to expand it. I am primarily wanting to focus on mecha games, games involving robots, supernatural type of robots. Super robots are fine. There's actually a couple of games I wouldn't mind. Radio controlled Dandy, is that it? Yeah, I think so. And then there's a couple of other kind of cool little games to play I would love to get to. And if I can keep this channel going, then I might. It's just all about timing and how long I want to stick around for this. Next 3 questions come from Dizman89. His first question is, do you feel that your audience is forcing you to do Let's Plays of Gundam games? This is actually an interesting question, and I looked into kind of the debate that got started about this question. And let me just pull this up here so I can see it. Scroll down here. And you know what? I really enjoy the Gundam games, and a couple people pointed that out, that I've even said that. I do enjoy the series in general. I like playing the games. A lot of people do send me messages often to, hey, play this Gundam game, play that Gundam game, do you have this, that type of thing. Do I feel like it forces me to actually play the game? No, not really, because a lot of people have tried to go, oh, you should play this one next, or this one. And there probably would have been a better order to play them in versus what I actually did, but it's really what I'm in the mood to play. If I suddenly don't want to play a game, I'm not going to do it, and that's just that. That's the end of it. I do want to get through all the Gundam games, so it just happens that a lot of my goals align with what people want to see on my channel for it. Now, that's not always going to be the case, and I've actually gotten some interesting little personal messages before from people who are a little disgruntled about my next choice of Let's Play game or LP. So, oh well, you can't please everybody, and I certainly don't care to in any way, shape, or form. But I do try to make it easy for people to be able to talk around the channel itself and have an input as to what happens. And I do read all of these comments. I don't see them all the time because of YouTube's little screwiness about reporting that I actually have comments on videos, and I have over 100 videos, so I can't look through them every day because that takes forever. Let's see. His next question was, what other games would I like to Let's Play? Oh, Zone of the Enders is a series that comes to mind. I do own Zone of the Enders and The Second Runner. I would love to Let's Play those. I like the combat in those. They're very dizzying, and I like that. It took me a while to get used to them. There's a couple of Robotech games, actually, or Macross games, that I wouldn't mind Let's Playing if I can get them to work. I believe there's only, I think, about 2 actual Robotech games that were released in the West within the last decade or so. No, maybe 3. There's Battle Cry, Invasion for the Xbox, and then there's some little dinky Game Boy Advance game. I can't remember the name of it. It came out about the same time as Battle Cry. I do own Battle Cry. I don't have Invasion. I've been looking for a decent copy of that one, though, and I don't have that Game Boy Advance game, but I have seen it. So yeah, there are other games I'd like to Let's Play. Just get to them down the line. I mean, I don't plan on going anywhere for a while unless real life comes up, so I've got plenty of time to work through these, and I've got to run out of Gundam games eventually, right? Finally, he asks, do I prefer Macross or Robotech? Yes, the great debate. This has started many a flame war on M before, and I try to stay away from it for that reason, because you can't really get a good point in edgewise, because it's just more along with fanboys waving their E-peens at each other a lot of the time. I like both of them. I grew up with Robotech, so I do tend to favor that one a little bit more, because I grew up with it. It was something that I always have that nostalgia factor for. I read most of the novels by Jack McKinney when they first came out, and I still have actually quite a few of them. Some of them are in better shape than others. I did like just the whole universe they tried to paint for it. Macross felt more along the lines of, I don't know, kind of like a Top Gun version of, rather than what Robotech was trying to point out. But I do like some of the Macross only series renditions. Zero was interesting. It took me a while to get a hold of it, to watch it. And I actually saw the whole thing at a convention one time I happened to be at, and somebody was playing them, so I just stopped to watch them all, and they were pretty good. I have watched Macross 7. I haven't seen Dynamite. I've seen Macross Plus, which is a fucking fantastic OVA series or movie, whichever version you look at. Great, love them, fantastic. I'm waiting for a good Blu-ray release so I can actually own that one. And surprisingly, that one, Macross Plus, got played a lot in the United States on like movie channels like Encore, Showtime, HBO. I think played it maybe once, which is it's interesting considering that not a lot of anime movies get played in the U.S. in their entirety. Yeah, so probably I leaned more towards Robotech than Macross, but I do like both. Do You Remember Love was fantastic. Next question comes from Gravemind Zombie, and he asks, would you ever consider let's playing any of the Gundam games that have not been exported to outside of Japan? Games such as the Gundam Versus series, which that's not like Federation versus Zeon. That's a different series that he's mentioning here. Super Robot Wars, or he also mentions the A series, which is another Century series. I've played the Another Century series. I played a couple of them for the PSP actually, because luckily the PSP wasn't region locked, and I don't actually own those games. I had borrowed them from a friend. I would love to import them. I've looked into a few games actually to import, but the cost of doing so, and then the ability to actually reproduce the game on a recordable format, it's difficult to do. Because I can't guarantee that I can actually play the game and be able to record it, it's not worth it to import it unless the price is really low. In which case, if it fucks up, I don't really care because, whoa, I've got another game. So that's just to answer your question there. Next three questions come from Shelby Eleanor 500. His first question he asks is, do you build Gumpla? And for those who don't know what Gumpla is, do I build Gundam-related model kits and basically robot model kits, mech model kits? I do. I haven't in a long time because they're too damn expensive and there's not a really good location locally for me to get a hold of any. There used to be a really good store nearby that had, that was his entire focus, was almost completely Gundam. He did a lot of Armored Core stuff as well, and some odd little series here and there, including, I didn't know they made them at the time, but an Ava model, which had this really weird rubber suit you had to put all the parts into. It was really odd. But he went out of business or switched to a wholly online retail, in which case it just lost touch out of it. And I pick up Gumpla where I can for whatever price, mostly at conventions or if I'll see something online. Amazon's a pretty good place, but you got to shop around for them to get you a decent price. I've heard of some decent websites, but a lot of the time I don't like to put up with these weird, shady looking sites. At least I think they're shady, and not receive the item that I pay for. His next question is, will you do a Let's Play of MS Saga? MS Saga is actually kind of what we kind of would hope from a Super Robot Wars game, where you have the RPG RTS feel with more of a mech series, and primarily goes into like a Gundam style feel where you can mix and match parts and create your own mobile suits to battle out with iconic mobile armors and mobile suits from the Gundam franchise. I would love to play the game. Since I've already had a really long Let's Play, I don't think that this would be breaking the mold too much. I just have never found a copy that either worked or was not outrageously priced, but I do consider a game that I would like to Let's Play. His final question is, do I like the Savior Gundam? If it's the Savior Gundam I'm thinking of from in general, or at least a variation for it, it's not bad. It's kind of weird. I always felt like it was just an odd version of the Aegis. I felt like it had too many themes borrowed from the Aegis Gundam, a color scheme and things along that line. So it's okay, I suppose. If, again, I may be thinking of a completely different mobile suit. Not entirely certain. It's hard to keep some of them straight from that series. Next question comes from Brandon Vu, if I pronounced the last name portion of that right. What happened to Alfred Izuhara and Ko Uraki after their OVAs? For some reason, I cannot remember who Alfred Izuhara is, so I can't answer that question off the top of my head. Maybe if you want to point out here in the comments for the video itself, and I'll try and answer it from there. I just, for some reason, cannot place that name, and I don't want to kind of cheat by trying to look online for it. Ko Uraki, actually, after his OVA, kind of after his OVA, but in between the last battle and when he shows up to see Nina for the last time, Ko went to prison. Ko went to prison and became someone's friend. That's most likely what happened. Afterwards, I do remember reading somewhere that I think he does hook up with the AU, and it may have been mentioned somewhere along the lines of Garen's greed. But I remember it somewhere that him and other pilots like Yu Kajima and some others actually joined up with the AU. But Ko, for the most part, is kind of a ghost. He doesn't exist because the GP project in which he was attached to as a test pilot was wiped off the face of the map. It really doesn't exist after the OVA takes place because the Federation just deems it to be let's cover up all the evidence type of thing. So, anyways, Ko goes to prison, becomes somebody's special friend, and goes back to be once again traumatized by Nina fucking Purpleton. Next question comes from Blue Hound Zulu. I know your opinion on Gundam 00 is one of negativity, but why? I really liked it when I first watched it, being my first Gundam, but after watching a lot of the UC, all of the Char vs. Amuro arc, I think it's mediocre. I believe it's a good anime, but not a good Gundam anime. You kind of touch on it right there, Blue. See, I did reverse. I watched all the UC first. I fell in love with the UC stuff. It was just something I really couldn't justify 00 as being that fantastic. The first season was great. I really enjoyed the first season. It took the elements out of Wing I really liked and kind of gave it a more real life feel to it, what with the political situations, a lot of the nations. Not a fan of the animation for the most part, and it's not the characters that I have a problem with. Anything to me is better than same face Harai, but it's the Gundams themselves. They look too model kit like. They look too plastic fake. And I wanted a little bit more detail out of it. Maybe I'm just spoiled with some of the other designs or the older animation style. Granted, at least they didn't use completely CGI for everything. That would have been even worse. But I think you've hit upon it right there. Is that after you watch everything else, if I'm reading your question right here, where you watched 00 first, but then saw the UC stuff and can't really see the 00 series as being a true Gundam series. It is a Gundam series. It has all the iconic things there, but it's one of those series that isn't in the top of the Gundam franchise. It's still good, and it's relatively decent quality for it, until you get to the movies where that just becomes a whole other matter. But the first season was fantastic. Loved it. It's actually up there pretty high for me, but in the entire series in general, puts it down pretty low. But I think you've hit upon it pretty good, where it doesn't measure up to what the previously made material has been able to do. It's better than Seed, though. It's much better than Seed. And I don't know how Japan felt about 00. I know Japan loved Seed and Destiny, which, okay, whatever. No one else apparently did, but they did. So maybe it was well received. Who knows? His Blue Hound Zulu's next question is, what is my favorite Transformer? That's a tough one. The little kid in me wants to go, well, of course it's Optimus Prime. I mean, it's fucking Optimus Prime. Especially movie version Optimus Prime from the 1980s movie. Fucking fantastic. That fight scene with Megatron was just amazing. But I don't know. That's hard to say. I do like Ultra Magnus. I like Hot Rod. Not Rodimus Prime, but Hot Rod. And I like Optimus Prime a lot. Grimlock has his moments too, until you get to the second the G2 era, and they turn him into a pet. You see that a lot in the movie too, where he went from being Grimlock, who was just ruthless type of battle leader, into a comic relief, and I didn't really like that, so I kind of fell out of touch with that character for the most part. Next couple of questions actually come from Brettman. Brettman asks, what do you use for your recording equipment? A lot of different things. I have my handy original model Fat Boy PlayStation 2, which is thankfully still working. That's right. Please don't die on me. It's sitting right next to me here on my desk. I use what's known as a HAPOG, if I think that's how you pronounce it, HAUPPAUGE, HAPOG HD PVR2. This box actually, it's kind of tiny. It's probably about 5 inches by 5 inch box that you plug everything into, and it records and things along that line. It actually just came out. The HAPOG HP or HD PVR1 was a lot larger. It could do a whole lot of things for it. But this one had come out right around the time I was looking to get an external recording device, and it was just at a decent price point for it. The only problem with this is that it can only take inputs for basically HDMI. So unless you can fandangle your system to work HDMI-wise for your output from your system into the box, it can kind of limit you. If you're going for something that's a little older than that, if you want to do S-video primarily, or if you want to do coax or composite component, then I definitely recommend going into the HD PVR1. It's the gray-blue box. Don't bother with the gaming edition, which is a black color with an lime green, electric green style. It looks like a small Xbox One, basically. They give you a cable, which is cheaply made, I think, and they just changed its color scheme, but they upped the price by, I think, $30 to $40, depending on the retail, so I wouldn't recommend that. Otherwise, I've got my trusty computer here. It's a custom rig that I built. I use, in terms of software, make sure I get this right, I use Fraps. Fraps is a fantastic program. I do emulate some of my games. Mega Man Legends, that was done with emulation. Gundam vs. Zeta Gundam was done with emulation. Federation vs. Zeon was done with emulation. The X series was done in emulation up to the point where I'm at. But now I want to make a specific point clear on this, is that I own these games. I own each and every one of them, and I only ever try to really use the physical medium in the emulation for itself. I own all the consoles as well. I own the PlayStation, the Super Nintendo, the PlayStation 2. I used to own an Xbox 360, but I have one I borrow on occasion when I need to use one. I own a Game Boy, a bunch of old systems I've just accumulated over the years. So I do own these, in which case emulation for me, it does fall underneath that. Yeah, you can go ahead and do it. I already own them. I already paid the money for them, and they're not even in print anymore. So oh well, there's not much that I would even lose sleep over, for that matter. So like, I put the physical discs in there. Journey to Jaburo, Encounters in Space, I tried to do with the emulation by putting the actual game disc into my computer and using it that way, but they were either too laggy or they were just, textures were not appearing. Like Journey to Jaburo wouldn't even load. It would actually blue screen my computer if I tried to force it. Encounters in Space, while it did work, every texture was totally fucked up. Like the Gundam looked like it had giant potholes all over it for some odd reason, and the white base looked even worse. So I didn't want to put that on YouTube. I might show that off as kind of a goof thing when I do go back to show off the extra stuff. So there is that. But I do emulate. I'm not going to tell you what I use to emulate. That you can find online. I know that PlayStation 2 emulation specifically is a big old pain in the ass. There isn't a really defining emulation software for it. It's all kind of like, it's like calculus plus magic. Nobody knows how that shit works. So if you can get it to work, that's fine. It's fantastic. I try to stay away from, making people pirate. I want you guys to be able to enjoy the series, but I also want you to try and support it. That way we get more of it. We show that there is a market here, and we can eventually see a lot more of this stuff that's localized. So that's all I say towards that. But Fraps is a fantastic program in whatever fashion you use it for. You can use it for a lot of different screen capture technologies. There's also, now that is something you have to pay for Fraps. You can get a free trial, but that puts a watermark in one of the corners, and it also limits your size and how long you can record. In terms of editing software, when I first started doing my Let's Plays, so Mega Man Legends, I was using Windows Movie Maker. Now, that really isn't a very good editor. It was more along the lines of something I could use to take all the individual Fraps files and condense them and compress them down into one video. And it worked for the most part. I did start running into a lot of trouble with it when I first started using or going into the Federation versus Xeon side or game, and you can actually see where I transitioned over from Windows Movie Maker into the next editor I used was Adobe Premiere CS3. Yes, Adobe Premiere CS3, because you can tell that the way that the video is actually a lot larger than what the actual image is displaying is because I hadn't at that time realized that it was not cutting it off when I told it to, which it was doing well in Movie Maker for whatever reason, but it was being rather dumb in Federation versus Xeon with Premiere. So you can actually tell the switch point. And I used Premiere and a few other little Adobe programs in order to edit them for the longest time. However, I started running into a lot of issues with it. Adobe Premiere is, especially CS3, is ungodly slow when you are trying to actually render the video and get it all ready for upload. So, I mean, like it would take a couple of hours to get this thing ready to be uploaded to YouTube, and that was just too long. So I was on the hunt for a new piece of software, and I finally found one. Now, it used to be known as Vegas Movie Studio. It's just now moved over to being just called Movie Studio. I picked up Movie Studio Platinum 12 for less than $30 online when it first came out, and it's a fantastic little Vegas suite editor, Sony Vegas. It's not the exact brand name for that, but the only thing you really miss out on is a lot of Blu-ray editing, and I'm not making Blu-rays, so this works fine. I can drag and drop all of my my videos and clips into it, and what the biggest thing is I can actually use graphics processor assisted rendering, which means I can use like OpenGL or CUDA in order to speed up the process of actually making the movie. Which I think my average time for like a 40-minute video is like 30 minutes of compressed time, and then it's done. There are some massive issues I've had with Movie Studio, and that's because it's kind of... Sony likes to use the end user as a beta tester instead of actually doing it themselves. So you usually get software a lot of the time from them that isn't complete or doesn't work the way it should, but they will release updates here and there. Now, the biggest problem comes from me actually using the HubPog with Movie Studio. There's a piece of software that the HubPog comes with that is really the only one that works with it. There are some other freebie ones you can get for Mac and things like that, but it's called ArcSoft Showbiz. I actually worked for a video editor years ago, and he used ArcSoft, a very old version of it, but he used it, so I kind of was familiar with it. And it has its own capture section and things like that. Now, the problem is the container formats that you can actually capture with the HubPog, they don't play nice with Movie Studio sometimes, which is why there were parts where the video was freezing up. I would only get audio, things like that, and I actually had to look into getting around that by compressing the raw data into a different format. The format that it has the biggest trouble with, Movie Studio that is MPEG-4. For some reason, it either can't find the audio or it can only find half the video and half the audio. I don't know why. But yeah, that's all the software I really use to edit and actually film everything for it. So let's move on here. I think I lost my place. Yes. Next one from Brett Mann is, what do you think about Gundam Unicorn? It's okay. It's decent. I haven't seen the newest stuff out yet. I'm waiting to see if I can just kind of hold off from doing that and watch the whole series in its entirety and then judge it from there. The novelization was interesting. They do retcon quite a bit, so I want to see how it works all in one to see how they actually do it. And if I can get a Hathaway's Flash animation out of it, I might be able to look the other way for some things. Anyways, his next question is my favorite Mega Man game, X2. Mega Man X2 is my favorite Mega Man game. I loved it. A lot of people don't like it because of some of the mechanics in the game, but it's still one of my favorite Mega Man games of all time. Followed probably by Mega Man Legends 2, and then maybe X4. I do like the original classic series, but to me they're kind of hard to actually judge against other games for it. But Mega Man 2 is fantastic. The music is great. It's probably in my mind, the best Mega Man classic game. 7 was kind of a joke, and then you got to the last boss, which was unforgivingly difficult. 8, the voice I couldn't stand, not to mention I'm Frostman and all that bullshit. I haven't played any of the new 8-bit versions or the stuff that Capcom's been coming out recently with. Next question from Brett Mann is my opinion on Big O. I like Big O. Big O's good. It's actually a dub that I don't necessarily cringe at. I like Season 1 better than Season 2. Season 1 had more of that dark noir feeling to it with a detective, kind of like Batman with mechs, it kind of felt. I liked Roger Smith's character quite a bit. Season 2 kind of started to go its own little way, and I felt a lot of they're trying to grasp at threads here and weave it all together, but they failed in the last second, and it just didn't turn out. It seemed like it was missing something to tie a lot of that together. But overall, I like the series. It's pretty good. And the animation is fantastic. Even to this day, I think it's aged very well. Let's see here. We've got actually quite a few questions here. I may end up splitting this video into parts. That way it's not like 3 hours long or something like that, because I'm talking way too much. Anyways, Blue Hound's back with some more questions here. And he is, what is my opinion of Universal Century? I like it. It works pretty good. There's nothing really that wrong with it. It does have a habit of being very depressing. So if you're not someone who likes that type of thing, it's kind of difficult to get into. But in terms of just overall variety of mobile suits and characters and all that thing, and Kill 'Em All Tomino, I like it. I like Universal Century a lot. And rolling into his next question here, he asked me the opinion of the original 0079, the original Mobile Suit Gundam series. It has not aged well. We desperately need the origin to fucking come out as an animation so we can get something and go, look, see, this is what it was all about. Instead, we get those wonderful animation glitches where Gundam, it looks like a washboard or a horse that's flying through space with rockets shoved up its ass for whatever reason. They're towards the end of the original series, the latter half of it, when things really start to take off, when they're back into space from Jaburo, it starts to take a better turn for quality, I think. And looking at some of the touched up scenes that we've seen for encounters in space and things like that, I think that the series has a lot of promise to show again what was so good about it. The next question from Blue is, where do I want to see them take the series next? You know, I'd like to see them expand into more animation from some of the side manga and material that they already have. Age was just, it wasn't that good to me. I just couldn't get into it. I've watched it. It's okay. It was definitely marketed to a younger audience, which is fine, but you need to be able to placate the older Gundam fans who have been with the series for a lot longer. You need to be able to give them something to be able to go, okay, we'll take Age so long as we have this kind of goody thing to work into, which maybe Unicorn fits that bill, I suppose, but the infrequency of that, I think they should have came out with another full series alongside of Age, or maybe right after Age, but they've taken their sweet time here. Instead, we're getting a bunch of Gumpla builder series, which are fine, but they're not really Gundam. They're just kind of offshoots, and I think we're getting another Gumpla series here real soon. Blue's next question is, will I be continuing my Mega Man X Let's Plays? Yes. Again, like everything, it's a tentative date. I do plan to do it. I have every single one of them except for X8, which I can't find a copy of. So yeah, no, I do plan on finishing that. X3, I believe, is the next one in the list for me. And that is probably one of the more rage-inducing X games for me, just because it's off the bat, you are really over or underpowered, and every enemy hits you for a fuck ton. So we'll see how many times I start swearing and give up in frustration on that one. His last question for this little spat here goes to, where do you think Capcom should go with the Mega Man series, both X and Classic in general? Personally, I like to tell them to go to hell, because I don't want to see them touch the series and butcher it any further. But, of course, this is Capcom, and in their typical fashion, they'll do something even worse. I'm looking at you, Mega Man X over. Wow, that just... There was a dark day indeed when I saw what they did to my favorite Blue Bomber there, to Mega Man himself. It was, yeah, I sound like a raging fanboy for it. So be it. I can't stand what they've done to it. Next question comes back from RX000. What do I think about Hajime Katoki and his constant redesigns of many suits? I don't mind them. They're not bad. A lot of people don't like them. A lot of people reference the fact that he makes them mostly, 80% of the mobile suit is just the legs, and the rest of it's torso, arms, and whatever. So I can see that. For some of the suits, he does elongate them quite a bit. I think the worst example of that, or the best example to show that he does that, is the Epion redesign that he did, which, yeah, that was kind of a little weird, but yeah, it's a redesign. It's going to have some slight tweaks here or there. Not everybody's going to like it. I do like the majority of them. They're okay. I really liked what he did with the original pilot versions of the first 5 Gundams. If you don't know what those are, take a look and see if you can Google those images for them. Death Scythe, I think, was freaking amazing looking. I liked what Wing looked like to begin with, rather than what the Okawara versions became. So, yeah, that's my 2 cents on that. His next question is, who's your favorite female character from the mecha genre? That's tough, and that brings up a kind of a question of how women have been treated in this series. In Gundam, they haven't been treated very well. I mean, there's some pretty good examples of badass female leads in Gundam, but a lot of them end pretty badly. But in terms of my favorite, I don't know. I don't think I have a good answer for that one. And I'm trying to think of one. The first thing that popped in my head might have been Asuka from or Asuka from Evangelion, and yeah, she was okay, I suppose. She was a real bitch for most of the series, but she had her issues there, so she's not too bad. I didn't mind. What, I can't remember the name of the secondary half, or the female half of the main characters from. Oh shit! Oh, Gasaraki. That's an interesting series. It's actually on YouTube, legitimately. If you can find it, it's there. Take a look at it. It's pretty good. I liked whatever her name is. I can't remember. She's kind of cool. Next question from RX0 here is, if you were Shinji Ikari, would you have been a real man instead of what Shinji was? Shinji, for the most part, was turning into a giant wuss through a lot of the series, and that's what a lot of people's opinion of him, well, is. And I agree. For a lot of the times, he was just kind of taking his head and putting it up his own ass, and couldn't really tell the difference between that and the regular world. If I was Shinji Ikari, or if I suddenly found myself as Shinji Ikari or in his shoes, and I could keep my mentality from who I am now, yeah, I probably would have been a bigger man than him. One, because I'm piloting a giant fucking mech. I'm going to use that to my advantage and not freak the fuck out whenever a giant alien appears. Plus, I'm kind of desensitized to that whole type of thing. As like, ooh, a big giant alien. Let's go stomp the shit out of it. So yeah, I would probably try to be a bigger man than Shinji, and that really wouldn't take much. Next question comes from Game OSTs2. And I think I butchered your name once before, and I hope I got it right there. I should have probably looked up how I said it before, but we'll figure it out eventually. Who's your favorite giant spaceship or cruiser commander? He gives an example of Bright Noah. You know what? Henry Global. I really liked Henry Global, just for the line of thundering asteroids and the fact that he would always try to smoke on the bridge. He's probably my favorite captain. Next question does come from Game as well. He asks, since you mentioned Evangelion, what do you think of the end of Evangelion, and have you seen 3.0 yet? If yes, what are your thoughts? The end of Evangelion, like I said before, left me and a lot of people I saw, or who've seen it as well, scratching their heads and rewinding to watch it again. It was weird. I don't think it was a series end it should have gotten, but it's what we have. And maybe we'll see something different with the rebuild here. Have I seen 3.0? No. I'm waiting for it to legitimately come out before I watch it. I'm trying to buy them as they come out. So here in August, I think, when 3.33 comes out, I'm going to buy it, and then I'll be able to give you a little bit better explanation on that. And I'll probably mention it, too, after I watch it. I have seen 1.11 and 2.22. I like them. They're pretty good. But the shit doesn't start to hit the fan, I feel, until after that point in the series. Because up until that point, it was pretty standard for a lot of the mecha things that it did. I loved the positron cannon scene. I loved the music that it had with it. I can't remember the name of that track. But when the Ava is sitting there and aiming at it, and the angel actually shoots at it, and the music that pops up was really good, and I felt that element was missing a lot of the time from some of Evangelion. I also want to see what they do with the series, so withhold judgment until I can watch the whole thing. But so far, I like what I see. I've heard some bad things about 3.0, but I want to wait and see what happens, and cross my fingers and hope that we're not seeing another end of Evangelion type of thing coming up. Not that it's a bad thing; it just may not work very well. Game's next question was, do you like any Super Robot animes? Godanar? Yeah, there we go. Godanar. Didn't mind that. I'm trying to think of any other ones I've seen. A lot of times I watch them and I don't even remember their names. Yeah, I do like Super Robot style animation or animes. I just can't remember half the ones I watched. I do remember watching Voltron and enjoying it for what it was, and including the original one for it. I guess Transformers kind of counts as a super robot type of thing, in which case, hell yes. But yeah, no, I don't mind Super Robot. Big O, I think, goes close to that. Giant Robo, Gigantor. Gigantor was good. Now I'm starting to remember them. I haven't seen some of these in a long time, and now I'm going to have nostalgia feel all day. But next question from Game OSTs 2. Any non-mecha anime you like? Yeah, I like a lot of anime in general. I grew up watching a lot of it through Toonami when it was originally running. In that regard, I remember watching Blue Submarine 6, Gundam, Dragon Ball Z. Find me an anime fan that hasn't seen something of Dragon Ball Z, and I'll find you somebody who's just getting into anime just that second. Because Dragon Ball Z is a series, love it or hate it, it really did nail anime into the West. It was the opening salvo for that, and a lot of people liked it, and a lot of people got the start for it. I've seen Tenchi Muyo, not the entirety of it, and they make it difficult to even try, because finding all the complete episodes, since it wasn't even ran in its entirety on Toonami, it makes it difficult, and actually collecting the box sets or the Blu-rays was difficult. Yu Yu Hakusho was good. I enjoyed that quite a bit. One Piece I watched for a little bit. I also did watch Naruto for a good portion, but I kind of got out of Naruto. I read more of the manga quicker than I did out of the anime when it was coming out. Bleach was okay. I liked the music out of Bleach, and I liked the first real arc that they had when they like the first 40 episodes, maybe 40, 50 episodes. After that, it kind of got repetitive, but that genre tends to, I feel, in anime. His final question here is, do I want another Zone of the Enders game? Yeah, no, I would love another Zone of the Enders game, especially because I want to see what Kojima does, how batshit insane he uses that. Although, judging from some of the weird little things he's been making announcements for the new Metal Gear games, I don't know what's going to happen here. But if they keep a decent art style for Zone of the Enders, I could really get into a Zone of the Enders 3. I love the Second Runner. The original wasn't bad. It just felt a little incomplete for what it was. And in reality, a lot of people bought it for the Metal Gear Solid 2 demo that was on it. Next question comes from Pegasus Seiya. Every time I read your name, I keep thinking of in Tekkaman when he actually calls Pegas. And I keep hearing that in the back of my mind when I keep saying your name. But Seiya asks, what do you think of Crossbone Gundam and Crossbone Gundam Ghost? I want them as an animated series. Please, please, Bandai, can we have something that's animated for it? We have such a bad taste in our mouth from Gundam F91, which actually, Pegasus' next question is for Gundam F91 and what I think about it. It would have been better as a series. As a movie, it was bad. That would be a tough one to see to think about which is worse. Awakening of a Trailblazer or the F91 movie. It felt really rushed very badly. I think it had a lot of potential. If they went back and redid it, that would be great. I wouldn't mind that whatsoever. But I want to see some late UC stuff come back into life here. A lot of this has been really early UC to mid UC. So let's just see some more stuff out of this. In terms of Crossbone Gundam itself, I like the designs. I've read a good portion of the manga for it, and I do like it. Ghost, I haven't read too much of, though. Or at least I haven't read into it too much. I do know of it, but I'll have to wait and see if I can actually find something for it. but I like the setting a lot. I like to see a lot of that late UC, along with what became of Cecily Fairchild and Seabrook and all those characters. All right, moving on down the line here, we got another question from Seiya. Do you prefer Universal Century over other timelines in Gundam? I do prefer UC over AU. I just like UC a heck of a lot better, and I find a lot of people who, even when they start with AU first as their first Gundam, they do tend to gravitate more often to the UC setting as their favorite rather than the AU. Although the AU does hold a special place in their heart. Let's see. The next question from Pegasus is, will you ever do a Let's Play of an imported Japanese Gundam games? Like we said before, if I could actually afford them and guarantee them to work in some pleasing fashion that they wouldn't look like shit, then yeah, wouldn't mind it one bit. Next question comes from Brown NF23, and he asked me, why did I start the channel? Why did I start Let's Playing? Well, the big answer is I had a lot of time on my hand. I wish I had that much time still. It was probably still kind of during that college, when I was still in college for it. In general, I had a lot of free time. I also found myself with, I didn't have a job. I had lost my job, actually. I had a lot of things go very badly for me very quickly in life. Within the space of a month, actually, I had a shit ton of stuff happen to me all at once. That if they had happened all together or separately, it would have been It would have been easier to have just gone past them. But because they happened in such close proximity, it caused a lot of turmoil in my life. And like I said, I had a lot of free time, and I need something to occupy it. So I'm like, you know what? I've seen people do these Let's Plays. I had just built a completely new computer that I knew could handle it. And I just had to figure out how to do it. And thus I began my career of stumbling horribly along in the world of Let's Play. But that is why I started the channel. It's just as a new hobby, something to do, and something to just get my mind away from whatever the hell I was doing at that time and where I wasn't at currently. Brown's next question is, do you think it will get into playing and recording the Gundam battle operations? If I had a PlayStation 3 and access to a Japanese PlayStation Network account, yeah, I wouldn't mind showing off some videos of that. I have played Battle Operations, not often. I played it maybe twice, and it's because a friend of mine actually has a PlayStation 3, and if I get him to let me borrow it at his account, I may record some videos for it. Although, like I said before, in Journey to Jaburo, I feel like the controls are very similar between the two games, from Battle Operations to Journey to Jaburo. So yeah, I would love to record it, but we'll see what happens. They may shut it down before I get a chance to, because it is a completely online free game. Next question comes back from Mr. Superjam789, and he asked me, what do you think about the big budget live action Gundam film? He believes that Sony trademarked the URL for it. If you talk to any Gundam fan who knows a lot about the series or who has seen a lot of the series, immediately comes to mind is G-Savior. And the kind of abysmal version it was. If they could do it right, yeah, I'd love it. I'd love to see it. The problem is, can they do it right? Is a real big question. Going back to like robot genres in general, or big robot genres in general for live action films with Pacific Rim, where I thought it was actually pretty good. It has to be done right. It has to have a director who likes the genre, who can get into it, and it has to have people who enjoy doing it. So would I like to see one? Yeah, that wouldn't bother me. That wouldn't bother me a damn bit. It's just trying to actually get one that'll be decent. And to the question that was mentioned above, when they asked about what I think about the Savior Gundam, I was talking about the Destiny, the Gundam Seed Destiny version. Now, if you were talking about the G Savior, not a fan of the design. It looks too skinny, and the armor looks too bulky for its skinny frame. So I just couldn't get into watching it more like that. It'd be interesting to see a better design for it. Super Jam's next question is, do I watch Toonami on Adult Swim? And if so, what shows do I watch on there? I watched Toonami back when it originally aired, like at 4 o'clock every weekday. on Cartoon Network, and I do watch it now on Adult Swim. It was amazing when I heard the news that it was coming back. I'm like, thank God it's coming back. I currently watch. I don't watch Bleach. Like I said, I fell out of that. I do watch Cowboy Bebop when they have it on there. They kind of interchange that out. Not a fan of Thundercats, even though it's probably a better. It's a lot better than what the original series was, and they also canceled it. I think just a lack of interest, or a toy line. I think as well didn't have that, which that explains why they canceled it. I have watched Titan. Titan's pretty good. I like that. It's a very Samurai Jack meets Super Robot. I liked it. So let's see here. Titan Maximus, or whatever it's called, I've watched it a couple of times, and that's not really from Toonami, but it is on the Adult Swim block. You know, the reason I bring it up is because it's kind of Super Robot. I've watched it a couple of times. Not a huge fan of it, because it's, yeah, not a huge fan of that one. I do watch Eureka 7. I do like that series quite a bit. I have not seen AO yet, though, and I know the movies are terrible, but I haven't seen them or AO. I was actually wanting to rewatch the entire series on Toonami here in this block, and then get into AO afterwards, because I can actually, there's actually a couple of sites that have it up for official streaming, so it'd be nice. I think Funimation actually still has it up on their website, so I encourage you to watch it there if you can. If you can stand the fact that their website breaks most of the time. I think I've lost my spot on this list here. Oh, here it is. It looks like Gundam the Origin anime series is coming next year. My thoughts. It can't come fast enough. It needs to get here now. Now, damn it, now. I'm so tired of seeing Gunpla commercials that are not even trying to hide the fact that they're Gunpla commercials. His Super Jam's last question is, and since you alluded to it, why do you think that YouTube is actually lacking in its community feel? When I joined YouTube years and years and years ago, you could actually talk with people on somebody's channel. They actually had almost a forum type setting going. You could go to somebody's channel, see what they were subscribed to, see who's subscribed to them. You could look around the comments and go from page to page to page, watch videos there, and made like a custom channel for each and every person that they could actually use. And slowly over the years, they've gotten rid of these community type features. I mean, first they absolutely obliterated the functionality of your own personal YouTube page, and it became very redundant to have it, because every time you would click on a link for a video, it would just take you to a separate page, and the chances of you actually getting back to that channel, unless you really wanted to, was very little. So if you were just kind of like floating from recommended video to recommended video, you may not actually see somebody's channel, and that hurt a lot of independent people or small time people who were trying to be on YouTube for whatever reason. Especially the newest rollout version of YouTube. The channel is almost completely irrelevant. They might as well just have a playlist selector, and that's it. Matter of fact, that's probably all that thing's good for. I hardly ever use it. And that's their intent. If you're a YouTube partner, you get a lot out of it, because they're constantly pushing people to actually use, in order to be shown off, that they want them to be able to post on your page, their recommended YouTube partners, machinima, different types of things like that. So I feel like it's become more corporate side to making their partners happy. You know, the people who bring in those million views for their revenue, which they're becoming, a lot of people will call it a revenue service. That's all they're trying to do is make money, and it's not about the videos themselves or anything like that. And if it gets worse and worse, I may think about moving over to some different medium entirely, or if I can't find a replacement, that may be what kills off my channel, is if I just feel that it's not worth putting the videos up for any certain point. But that would probably take a lot of dumb moves on their part in order to get me to that point. Let's see here. Our next question actually comes from Psychodiver 69, and he asks, "What Gundam novel / manga would you like to see animated next?" Hathaway's Flash. I would love to see that animated, just because I want to see Hathaway kind of grow a pair and become kind of a competent pilot who falls to a stupid trap. And then I want to see Bright get his comeuppance for being such a dick in some of the series. If I didn't see that, I would love to see Sentinel animated. Even if it's just OVA form, which would probably be the better way, because it's kind of a short little series. It'd be great to see some of those mechs in action. His next question here is, what's your favorite game and why? It doesn't have to be a Gundam-related game. My favorite game in general. I don't know that I have one. Or at least I don't know how, I don't know if I can narrow that down. If I had to, it'd be between Mega Man X2 and Gundam versus, or Federation versus Zeon. Love those two games, and I go back to play them all the time. Next question comes from Gundam Loverix. He asks, if you could bed any woman from the Gundam series, from any Gundam series, which would you choose? Ooh, okay, so it kind of comes up to a lot of the women in Gundam are portrayed as absolutely raving psychotic, raving lunatics and being psychotic. So, I've heard the old saying was, if you're gonna stick your dick in crazy, make sure it's batshit crazy, so at least you have a story to tell for it. So if I go along that logic, maybe Haman Karn or Katajina, that would be bad. I don't know if I'd live to see the night. I don't know. I could see Beltochka. She wouldn't be too bad. She at least was, I could talk to her for the most part if I chose to pursue a relationship for that. I've really never thought about that. It just kind of feels like an awkward question. But yeah, those are some interesting examples. Not Lala, just because I've seen that stupid cutscene in which she goes all new type every single time too much. Peru, no. That especially the Peru from Meridia Cruz from Unicorn, that be damaged goods there. I don't think that would be a good idea. She would probably kill me. Next couple of questions, and we're almost at the end of this list. I don't know how long I've been recording for. It's probably been over an hour, somewhere close to it. It comes from 1485257. And he has 4 questions here. His first one is, what is your thoughts on Gundam Wing Frozen Teardrop story? From what I've looked into it, I don't know what they're doing, but they're retconning a bunch of shit. And I hope they don't destroy a lot of what I liked about Wing. But it's not done. We'll see how it works, and we may actually get a new anime out of that. So if that's the case, I may be willing to look past some of their odd choices for things. But yeah, I'm gonna hold my breath on that one. His next question, if you could spend the day with any 3 Gundam characters, who and what would you spend the day doing? Any 3 Gundam characters. I think it'd be cool to spend the day with Char, just because I think it'd be funny. As long as he didn't try to kill me by accident, because that's all he can ever do is kill his own teammates. It'd be kind of cool to hang out with Duo Maxwell. And not Catra. Oh god, no. Catra would drive me nuts. Let's see, who would I hang out with as my third pilot here? Oh, you know what? Judo. Judo could be a decent guy to hang out with. He was goofy, but he was alright. I mean, it wasn't that bad of a character. So I could see Judo, Char, and Duo Maxwell. I think that could work out well. And what would we do, though, is a question. Well, we can't take Char anywhere near little kids. That wouldn't work too well. Duo would probably be up for doing anything. I don't know. That's a good question for it. You know what? I'd probably take them to some sort of arcade, just if you could find one, and see how well that works when they're playing a game and they're not trying to kill each other over the fact for it. I definitely would try to avoid political rallies because that would just incite some wonderful Zeon Daikun type of feelings out of Char. Char seems to be the problem with this list, I think. I don't know. I'd maybe just go out and play, I don't know, a game of golf, skee ball or something. It's hard telling. I don't know. You don't really see them relaxing too often. They're usually trying to kill somebody or trying to avoid being killed. Moving on to the next question for 148, and I'll just use that as a shorthand for that. Of the Lost 4 Gundam series, and by Lost 4 he's talking about Victory, Double Zeta, X, and Turn A, which one would you like to see released? I'm pissed because Double Zeta was almost completely done in dub. So was Turn A. Turn A actually I think was. X I think had started and Victory was in the pipe, and Bandai pulled the fucking plug because of the horrible reruns from the original Mobile Suit Gundam. So Turn A. I'd like to see Turn A first. X was good, but it was too short because they had to cut it the entire series short. I felt like they didn't wrap it up very well. Double Zeta I wouldn't mind, but that means I got to slog through that first half of it again. Victory would be great. I'd love to see Victory in maybe a remastered version. Not a redo, but a touch-up version for it. It'd be really great to see Victory. So Turn A, Double Zeta, Victory, and then X in that order. Let's see here. Lastly, for him, what would be my ideal Gundam game? Something that has a Gundam game that has both ground and space combat. The space combat has to be speedy. It has to look like they actually, like if I can get a Gundam game with space gameplay that plays towards encounters in space, or like how 0083 looks in the OVA, speed and that type of thing would be great. With giant battles, with mobile suits, I would love to do the Battle of Solomon from either the Zeon or the Federation side as a grunt and be able to work my way up and fight through those giant battles where there are actually that many enemies or a lot of them on screen. To that end, I did like how Zone of the Enders did its from the ground to 360 space type of combat. Wouldn't mind something like that, but I think it may work or be a little too fast in terms of speed in order to get it to work right. So something along that with some Federation versus Zeon style ground gameplay, which is just solid gameplay and tight controls. It has to be very good in terms of controls. We can't have Journey to Jaburo every single time. Finally, next question here is Frank Daddy 28. If you could live in any Gundam universe, which one would you choose? I think I answered this question earlier, way at the top of the list. I'm trying to remember what I actually answered. I don't remember what I had actually answered. So see my answer to the above question there, Frank Daddy. If I didn't answer it, then I apologize because I am completely out of my mind. Who knew? Next question comes from Mike Wilson. Mike asks, hey, Lokenhar, if you was on Earth Federation or Zeon, which mobile suit or mobile armor would you pilot and why? If I was on Earth Federation, I would probably try to do maybe a Gem Sniper 2 or just a Gem Sniper. I'd love to be just ground combat primarily. Space, I'm pretty well stuck with either piloting a ball or a Gem, which doesn't end too well in the series. Zeon, if I had to choose a normal suit, Zaku 2, F-Type would be great. The F2 would be fantastic, the high mobility version. If I had to pick a mobile armor, I don't know, maybe the Bigaro? I could see doing the Bigaro. Big Zom, I would have too much fun with Big Zom. It would just be me saying Dozel Zabi's sayings over and over again. So probably something along those lines. Next question comes from Dark Nighthawk. And he says, do you have some way you might be able to play one of the Gundam strategy games? He brings up Garen's Greed as an example. I kind of do. This is more along the lines of off of those export, import connection or game questions. If I could get it to work, and there are ways to actually get it to work, and if I could get a Japanese PlayStation 2, that would be fantastic. One that wasn't so freaking expensive, then I would love to import them. I can't really read a lot of the katakana, so I would be at a loss for a lot of the instructions for it, but I would try to look up translations here and there. Obviously I can't install them into the games themselves. It would be fantastic, but for a game like Garen's Greed, where it's a strategy game, I feel like if I can't find a primer for it, I know some of it is in English, but if I can't find some sort of translation primer for it, it would be difficult to actually play it. So if I couldn't play it to the point where I could show it off well, or show it off in a functional manner, I probably would avoid it, but I wouldn't mind importing a strategy game to actually play for it. Next couple of questions come from, let's see here, Rico 511. First question is, with the bullshit Bandai is giving us with the Western release, do you import any Gundam related merchandise? Very rarely, unless like it's for Gumpla and I happen to be buying from a foreign store. Sometimes I do that because, I like I said, Amazon's a good place because they'll fuck people up, especially if they're fulfillment through Amazon, if they don't give you the order or if there's something wrong with it. So I like to go through them a lot of the time. I've heard people going through PlayAsia and a few other sites before, but I tend to try and stick with ones that have given me good products before, or good service in the past. His next question is, you browse M? Yes, I do. I do browse M, and for those who don't know what M is, that is the mecha board from the website 4chan. I do browse it quite a bit. I have for the last 4 years, 4.5, something like that. Before then, I didn't really look into it a whole lot. I didn't even know much about 4chan. But I've been there. I lurk more often than not. but I'm familiar with a number of the trips that are there. Dorkley, I do get a kick out of him quite a bit, and he's just random excuses to post shit and pictures. You see VF Kuhn, who I think is currently in a state of self-imposed exile, but I thought I saw him pop up the other day. I was there. I remember being there when there was a mod actually on M, and they put up the sticky to find out what the rules for M should be. And to that degree, M seems to have become more of a toku board than anything else, which is sad, but that's how it goes for it. So I don't lurk as much on M as I did. And nowadays, a lot of the threads happen to be about Pacific Rim this, Pacific Rim that. And while that's good and all, I was trying to avoid any spoilers before I'd seen the film. And I just haven't really gotten back into it in a long time. But I do see a lot of the debates that go on, and I do enjoy them. I do post on occasion. A lot of the times when like somebody posts for a Tekkaman dump or image dump, I have quite a few of those images. I will dump them like crazy onto a board like that. I don't mind contributing for that. Gundam wallpapers I'll put up on occasion. Actually, you've seen some of the ones I've collected from M before in some of my videos. Matter of fact, probably in this video here, you'll see some in the background as we go through these questions. So yes, I do browse M to browse MVR, which is Video Game Retro. Occasionally V, but not as much as I used to. G on occasion, but very rarely. M's probably my most haunted board, and I do lurk quite a bit on there. So yeah. And now his next question is, any other notable mecha you get into? Gasaraki was pretty good. Liked it. Big O, fantastic. Godanar was good. Let's see here. I remember some Robotech, Macross Plus. I haven't seen all of the Vatums. I haven't seen all of the Vatum stuff, and I know there's quite a bit of it, but I've seen a good portion of that. And I always mispronounce this. Rasifon, the mech series with the mech that has the wings on its head and stuff like that. I can never pronounce it. It's RAXPHEO something Dark Side. I'm into that series. Eureka 7's pretty good. I'm trying to think of anything else. Majestic Prince I have started watching, but I haven't kept up with it. I've heard good things about it, and from what I've seen, it's pretty good. Gargantua, whichever way it's pronounced or seen. I just don't remember half of these. Haven't seen it yet. Haven't really bothered to try and look into it a lot, so it's well. But yeah, no, there's other ones. Evangelion, that type of thing. Tekkaman, that's a good one. I guess you can count it as a mech anime, or at least a robot anime, with the Ruby Spears Mega Man cartoon. I remember watching that a lot when I was a kid. It's horrible when I look at it now, but back then it was the shit. Let's see what else. Pat Labor, love it, love the movies, except for the last film. Whatever one has the freaky, like, mutant creature. That one was weird. I couldn't get into that one as much as I did with the other ones. Let's see here. That's about it I can think off the top of my head. Finally, Rico's final question here is, you wouldn't a poor defenseless Peru, would you? Now, I remember this thread on M. I remember seeing that it took off, and I think did it get moderated, I think? I'm not sure, but I didn't actually click on it to see what was the entire thread about. So I'm not sure how to answer your question there for it, but I do remember that thread. And judging by some of the pictures that it had on display there, I was a little afraid to look into that thread at all. Yeah, because any question that has the words poor defenseless Peru in it makes me a little worrisome. As many people will do on 4chan, B is that way. So if that's what it is, that's the answer for it, I guess. But no, I don't know how to answer that question. Next question is from Fave Game Player, and he asks, what do you think about the leaked Gundam series we'll be getting called Gundam BF? I think that's Gundam Breaker. I think that's what that is. And yeah, it does look like it's going to be another Gumpla little thing for it. If it's not Breaker, it's probably going to be a tie-in for it or something along those lines. I want a goddamn Gundam series, damn it. I want an actual Gundam series, not a Gumpla commercial that doesn't even bother to try to hide that it is a Gumpla commercial. I want an actual, maybe not grimdark, but an adult maybe, a centered Gundam series, an actual series, not an OVA. So yes, I want a series. I don't want a Gumpla commercial. walking Gumpla commercial. But Lokenhar, the whole thing's Gumpla. Yeah, I get that, but this is just a blatant attempt by it. Fave Game also asks, with the release of the PS4, do you expect any Gundam games to come out for us Western fans, just like the release of Dynasty Warriors Gundam for the early days of the PS3? Like Crossfire, basically. I would hope so. There are some really good Japanese games that if I had a PS3, I would be importing the hell out of them right now, especially for the Unicorn series. Some of them look fantastic. But we might see some stuff. It depends, because like I said, I try to encourage people to actually buy legitimate Gundam merchandise, books, models, television series, that type of thing, because that type of support will lead to us getting more releases from Japanese exclusives and stuff like that. So support them, and you'll see more out of them that way. And it makes it easier for everybody. It's up in the air. The lineup right now is kind of weird, especially with all the kind of console wars that are going on right now between the next gen. So once that dies down, we may see something good, but we won't know until we see the launch lineup, which really is kind of speculative at this point for both consoles. Although I will be really sad if the Xbox One gets a Gundam game and the PS3 doesn't. So that's all I've got for that. All right, finally, we are up to our last question for the night. K-Man Meister asks, do you have any Gundam model kits? If so, what scale and what series? I do have several. Not all of them are in good shape anymore because they've fallen apart over the years. But I, for the most part, buy 1/100 because it just seems to be the scale that is cheapest, along with cheap versus detail scale. I have several 1/144. I actually do have one 160 scale model. I was trying to get a second one, but I couldn't get a hold of it. And for as much as I rag on 00, like I said, I did really like the first season quite a bit. So I picked up a 160th Gundam Exia, just the standard vanilla version of it. And I did a complete paint patch scheme for it, all the panel line etching, everything for it. I tried to go all out. I managed to pick it up for $30, and it was not a knockoff one. I picked it for $30, and I saw it, and I just snapped that shit up. Because finding a 1/60th scale anything for that cheap is nigh impossible. I've got, just turning around behind me, I do have I am a fan of the Ashtray series of Gundams from Gundam Seed, the side stuff. I do have an Ashtray Red Flame here, a 1/44 scale that I did a custom paint scheme for. I tried to keep with the red and white scheme that was on it. So, yeah, I also have GPO3. I have the Stamen only. I don't have the full thing, although I have seen the Stamen and Orchid, Orcus, which would be fantastic to have, but it's so expensive. Not to mention very difficult to put together. I have a Zaku 2. I do not actually currently have a RX-78 in any shape or form. I used to have, I don't remember what version it was. I think it may have been the third version they'd come out with. The one that had the really small feet, if you know which one that is. It looked really proportionally weird. But it fell off of the stand I had it on. I had it just kind of lean up on a bookshelf, and it fell off for some reason, and it was dead. There was no putting that back together again. It fell onto concrete, so it was dead. And I still have the parts somewhere. I used to have quite a few Gundam Wing ones. I had Wing Zero, Wing, Death Scythe Hell. I had Shenlong, Heavy Arms, along with Tallgeese, but those were all 1/44, and they were like the original ones that came out, so they weren't that very good in scale. I try to go for Master Grade if I can get it. Which most of the time they're not too bad in price, and real grade, if I can get those are fantastic, especially the ones with anything that has like the inner frame that you build around. Those are always really well done, so I encourage you to pick those up. You also might want to look into spray painting and learning how to paint with specific plastic colors and things like that to make the kits look a little better. Some of the stock colors aren't too bad for some kits, but I find a lot of times they're lacking, especially the stickers. I'm not a big fan of stickers. The water placement stickers aren't bad, but the standard patch ones that they put on there, they fall off. They leave adhesive gunk on your mobile suit or on your kit, and it just gets bad. I also have a couple Armored Core ones I picked up years and years ago that are slowly starting to fall apart. But that's about it in terms of models. I haven't been able to get into any new ones recently just because of price and expense. Everything in this world seems to be going up in price, and yet I don't seem to be getting paid anymore to match it. So that's the end of that answer there. Yeah. Well, that's it. That's the last of all the questions I've had submitted to me here. They roughly number about 92 questions. There's a lot of questions. I'm not sure how long this recording is. I may break it up into 2 parts. But thanks everyone for turning out and bringing back a little bit of the sense of the community that YouTube has slowly forgotten. I'm glad to see a lot of people talking, a lot of people putting things up here for questions, and people even responding to each other. Now, I saw some heated debate here or there break up. That's fine as long as people aren't getting real nasty about stuff. It doesn't really bother me that much, and it still contributes to the whole thing. But if it turns into a flame war, that's the one thing I want to avoid, and I see it all the time. Not here, not within my videos and stuff like that. Although there have been a couple occasions, and I've dealt with them when they have cropped up. But I want to thank you guys for watching my videos and for supporting them and being patient when I've taken so long to actually put them up online, and for all the fuck ups that have happened, audio glitches here or there, hard drives failing, etc., etc. There's more to come, more Gundam, more other Let's Play games to come up into the future. I still haven't decided on my next game after Journey to Jaburo. I am, as a lot of people asked, I am looking at Zeonic Front, and that is a front runner for actually getting to be my next one here. I'm not quite done with Journey to Jaburo, and I want to try and finish this one off in almost its entirety and show off everything if I can, instead of and try and break my losing streak here of leaving off at the last second and not showing all of the stuff I want to for these Let's Plays. So thanks again, folks. Thanks for everybody who sent me comments and questions, whether it was posted on the video itself or sent to me privately. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for being a great community. There's going to be more to come. Until next time, folks, see you later.